In this video, I'm going to show you what I did to go from 10K a month all the way to 30K a month in straight commission, selling for the biggest sales training company in the world, 7th Level. Now, contrary to what a lot of sales gurus out there will tell you, this didn't have to do with any changes that I made on the actual sales call, but more so everything that happened off the call. So if you're someone who's already doing fairly decent, maybe 10, 15K a month in commissions, looking to double or triple that, this strategy that I used for myself will pretty much help you do that almost overnight. So that being said, let's get straight into the video. All right, here we go. So 10K to 30K a month framework. Before we get into it, I of course need to add some credibility so everyone knows that I'm legit. Although nowadays you can just put numbers on a screen, it still seems cool. So to make sure you guys believe I'm super legit, I have this award from 7th Level has been given to me last month, from the time of recording this at least. So I'm gonna put it somewhere here on the screen so you guys know I'm like super duper legit, right? But yeah, like some context about me. I started selling fitness. That's how I initially got into it wasn't really high ticket. It was sort of mid to low ticket when I started selling fitness. That's for my own offer back in 2021. Scale that up to 10K a month in revenue, primarily through cold traffic and referrals, so Facebook ads and referrals from existing customers. I then moved into high ticket full time in the first months of 2023, so about 2.5 years ago, from the time of recording this. Selling coaching and consulting to business owners, more specifically, was towards wellness professionals, fitness professionals, health coaches, all that stuff. Okay. I was number one on my previous offer or company for almost 2 full years. I made up to 20K in a single month, but that wasn't really consistent. I was sort of fluctuating around 11 to 12, if I'm being fully transparent on in terms of like my actual average, right? Of course, I made 20K in a single month, but that wasn't something that happened every month on that offer. So I was at around 11 to 12. End of last year, so end of 2024, I joined the biggest B2C sales training company in the world called 7th Level, where I became the highest producing baseline closer. What baseline closer means is the amount of new cash you collect in the company, not so much back end sales and upsells. It's just new cash. Up to this point, again on the time of recording this, and number two sales rep in the entire company, making between 20 to 30K a month. My highest month was a little bit above 30K, but realistically, I'm fluctuating right around the middle there, right? Because I'm not able to replicate that production every month for different reasons. But I want to be sort of transparent at least and put my actual numbers and not just fake numbers over here. So yeah, let's get into how I did it, right? Like I believe that everyone who's making a fairly decent amount right now, meaning they're in that 10, maybe 12, maybe 15, maybe even close to 20, and wants to like get to that next level, this is gonna help you out. Now, if you're a beginner, this might not be as useful for different reasons, right? You might not have a decent enough skill baseline level to even apply some of this stuff. So you really need to overcompensate with a lot of volume at the beginning, or you just need to get way more efficient. Otherwise, this is not going to work super well. You might be at the point where you're not getting a lot of calls booked. So you never really have to overcompensate with outbound and sort of like working through the trenches and getting a little bit of shit at the beginning to get good. So yeah, if you're someone that's making like 3K a month in commissions and you have other reps on the same team that are doing like significantly more than you, this probably isn't going to apply as good. But if you're someone who's already like a relatively high producer, you might not be number one on the team or amongst the top guys, but you're sort of up there, right? You're again producing that 10 to 12K a month, and once you get to that next level, this is going to really help you out. Okay, so the first thing that you want to do is process. Now, what does process mean? Process, simply put, the system or framework you have in place and use during your conversations. Okay, it's the actual thing, the actual like framework you're going through during your conversations. It doesn't necessarily have to be a script. It's just the system that you apply every single call. Okay. The issue with no process, or when you don't have a process or a consistent process at least, is that there's too much deviation between sales calls, meaning there's too many changes that happen between every single sales call. So any assessment that will be made without a consistent process is one based on the results rather than what you're doing, meaning that at the end of the month, you're going to be making an assessment purely based on the results you got, but not necessarily on the process that you've used. So when you're trying to make changes based on that, you don't really know what changes to make because you don't know what led to that outcome that you already got. You're basing everything on the outcomes rather than having a correlation of like, this is what led to this outcome, because you haven't really had a consistent process on the call. Okay. And this is a problem, even if you're still like a super talented closer. Like I told you for myself, I got into my previous offer, and on my fourth month there, I made 20K in commissions. I didn't have a process. I just had like, I wasn't even super skilled. I just had a relatively high sales EQ, and I sort of believed in the offer, and I had high conviction, and I was a relatively talented closer, so I was able to get away with it. But over time, that didn't work to my advantage because I didn't know what I was doing led to certain outcomes. I couldn't sort of replicate that over and over again, or I couldn't even make changes because I didn't know what to make changes based on. Okay, so with a consistent process, evaluation is made on your results as a byproduct of a consistent process being used. Meaning, again, your close rate, your show rate, whatever it might be, is simply put just a byproduct of a consistent process applied over a long period of time. Okay, now this is an example right here. So on the bottom is, as you shift towards the right, the amount of sales calls that you take increase. And then on the left is deviation in the sales process, meaning like changes in the sales process per sales call, right? So you can see the guy on the left has a lot of changes the more sales calls he takes, whereas the guy on the right is pretty consistent with his process almost every single call, okay? The reason why this person, again, is to his advantage is because even though they might collect the same amount of cash, this guy just has that ability to replicate it, right? Because one, he knows what he's doing, and two, if he wants to get better, he can track the changes very accurately, meaning that, let's say I'm changing a certain question during connection or solution awareness, because I have a solidified process, the change that I'm making, I can directly link that change to a certain result. Whereas this guy, you can do that because everything's all over the place. Every single call is different. Okay. How to implement a process? Pretty simple if you don't have that already. Okay. Now, a lot of you might already have a process. You just need to stick to it more consistently. Like I had a manager once that was like horrible. This was my previous offer. He wasn't good, but it wasn't like a bad guy. He was just not a good manager. But there was one thing that he told me that is the only good advice he ever gave me, which is sometimes when you're on a sales call, in the back of your mind, you want to change your process. You want to do things differently because you feel like this prospect is different, this situation is different, all that stuff. When that voice comes in the back of your head, you need to just shut it off and just stick to your process. Okay. So a lot of you might actually have a process that no works, but because you feel like you need to change stuff, like, oh, there's an A-type prospect, oh, there's a broke lady, like I have to change things. No, like if you just stick to the process that you have already, it's gonna lead you to much greater outcomes over time and allow you to make changes a little bit more predictably. Okay. But if you don't have one, how to implement a process is get a script framework to use on every single call. Okay. I'm not a script guy, so I haven't pulled out a script on my screen like 3 years now. But framework stands for the same thing, which is basically just know what to do on the call. Like, what are the outcomes you're aiming for? What is the direction and flow to take? All that stuff. Okay. And then make changes and decisions based on the results every 1 to 3 months. Okay. Meaning that you want to apply a given process over a long enough period of time to actually make an assessment and evaluation and then make changes. Okay. Um, the reason I have this big range is ultimately depends. Like for myself personally, I like to make changes every 3 months, like make an evaluation every 3 months. So I will stick to something for 3 months for the most part, and use data over a 3 month period to make changes. I know there's other people that like to make it over the course of 30 days, which is fine. Like depends on so many factors, different contexts, all the stuff. I'm on an offer right now. I'm working for a company 7th level that there's like a high level of stability. The offer is big enough where the stability is high enough where a 3 month period is a pretty good sample size, right? You might be on an offer that's less stable, has crazy changes in marketing, lead flow, all that stuff. So in that aspect, you might want to use only a 30-day sample size because every single month things change. Right? So take that for what you will, but 1 to 3 months is like, if you've been on offer for a while, 3 months is good. You have a lot of data to base the sample size on. So that's the first part, is using a process. So like getting a process to use, using it consistently over a long period of time, and making changes based on that, based on the application of that process consistently. Okay. Now the second thing is data or inputs, and this is something that genuinely, and I can't believe this that I'm saying it, like most reps do not know their data. And if they do know their data, they don't know how to use them. They just know their data. It's like, I have a 40% close rate. Nice. No one gives a shit, No one gives a shit about your data unless you know how to use them to create inputs to improve accordingly, as you can see here. So the first part is actually knowing your data, okay? And if you do, you want to know how to use them accordingly to improve, okay? In a high ticket, I'm being serious, you can shoot your comms from one month to the other without focusing on a single second and getting better skill set. You don't have to get better objections. You don't have to get better consequence questions. You don't have to get better connection. If you know your data and you create relevant inputs, you can improve over 1 month to the other. Now, I'm not saying that improvement is sustainable because it might require a little bit more volume than someone might be accustomed to. But still, it's a way to shut up your comms. So let me show you an example. Okay, so if your daily inputs look something like this. So the week 1, you do 670 dials, you book 32 appointments, you have 32 appointments booked, 18 live calls, and you collect this amount of cash on average per deal. Okay, and the next week it looks kind of like this. The next week it kind of looks like this, and the next week it kind of looks like this. There's a big issue right there. There's a big issue right there. Like something's wrong. You just don't know what you're doing. Okay, if your daily inputs look something like this, you don't know what you're doing. Okay, it means you're either A, you don't know your data, or B, you don't feel like there's a reason to follow your inputs, which I'm gonna get to in the next step. But here's what the input of a successful rep look like, and more importantly, how they come to those inputs. So I'm gonna give you an example of how you guys can use this example to come with your own inputs. Okay, if I want to hit 30K a month, okay, let's say for me, I need to collect 200K. Okay, so what I need to know from there on out, I need to know my average cash collected, my average close rate, my average show rate, and my average slot utilization rate. By the way, you guys see now why it's so important to use a consistent process, because when I want to then gather this data, if I don't have a consistent process, it's not really going to be helpful for me to create inputs, because I'm creating inputs based on thin air. I don't have a process that I've used, right? So again, I need to have had a process and have used that process for 1 to 3 months consecutively at least, okay? So I come up with these numbers and I need to collect 200K. The first thing that I want to do is divide the total amount of cash that I need to collect, divide that by the amount of cash that I need to collect on average per sale, meaning that what this number means is that if I have 100K collected and I've closed 10 deals, that means my average cash collection is 10,000 because I do 100,000 divided by 10, okay, as an example. But if let's say my average cash collection is 5K, right, I need 40 deals to hit that cash collection goal, okay? If 40 deals is met on an average close rate, my average close rate is 35%, I need 114 live calls taken. By the way, you see I haven't changed anything. I didn't say I'm going to get my close rate higher. I'm saying if this is my average close rate, for me to hit that number of sales, I need to take 114 live calls, right? Because that's essentially the way you do this is the number 40 is 35%, and you do what is 100 and you come to that number, right? That's the amount of live calls you need to take, okay? 114 live calls. This is not appointments, this is live calls. This is actually live conversations you need to have with someone, right? At a 50% show rate, I need to double this number by 2 because this, again, is like 50% showed. It's not all the appointments that I have booked. If I'm assuming a 50% show rate, that means I need a 228 calls booked. Here's where the magic happens now. If I work 23 days in a month, I need to know how many days I need to work in a month. You need to pre-plan this before the month as accurately as possible. If you're going to travel 1 month, if you're going to have to go somewhere, if you're going to have to take weekends off, you need to pre-plan this stuff out because it's not going to work. Like you're just going to lose midway through the month because you realize like, oh, I thought I was going to work every day, 7 days a week. I'm actually working 4 days a week. If you want to work 4 days a week, it's fine, but you need to pre-plan this stuff, okay? So in this case, though, let's say if I work 23 days in a month, I will take the amount of calls that I need to have booked over the course of a 30 or 31 day period and divide that by the number of days that I'm going to work, which comes out to 10 calls booked every day. I need to have 10 calls booked every day on average, right? So some days it might be 11, the next day it might be 9, right? But on average, I need 10 calls booked every day. to hit my goal. Boom, simple as that. So if my slot utilization rate, this is why this data point is important as well, because if my slot utilization rate is 80% and I open up 10 available slots a day, that means I need to book another 2 manually every day, right? So my slot utilization rate is 80% and I open up 10 slots, that means I'm not going to get 10 bookings, I'm going to get 8 bookings from inbound, right? So then I need to know how many dials I need to make to book another 2 appointments. So I need to hit an input of $100 every day to hit another 2 appointments, right? For some of you who are, let's say, you just got on an offer, or you've been on an offer for a while, but you're not like full priority yet, you will need to know this stuff. You need to know how well you get utilized from inbound. So then you need to come to the conclusion of like how many outbound dials do you need to make to set a certain amount of appointments. Okay. So for example, if this is the case, by the way, I haven't focused on skill set. I haven't done objection handling. I haven't done reframes. I haven't done anything. I've just literally taken my averages from the past 3 months and said, if nothing changes at all, if 0 changes happen, this is what I need to do basically to hit 200K collected. Okay, so if I want that, if I don't want to change anything, for example, my inputs then would be this: have the same pre-call process that led to that 50% show rate. So make sure I maintain show rate by implementing the same pre-call process every day. Okay, which for me is calling the person the day before and making sure that build some sort of connection, confirm the call, make sure they watch the homework video, all that stuff. So maintain my pre-call process. Okay, not just relying on the setters to send the text message. Keep the product pitch the same to keep average cash collection steady. What this means is that if you work for an offer that has an ascension model, meaning there's like multiple products that customers can ascend to, I want to make sure that I default to, even not the highest, at least as high of a product as possible, okay, so that I maintain my average cash collection per sale. Because if I always, again, if I don't have this consistent input, the problem there would be that I'm just assuming. I'm just like, oh, this guy's broke, this guy's broke. And I've been there, right? Like, this guy's broke, this guy's broke, this guy's broke. You pitch them the lowest possible product. Sure, they buy, but then your average cash collection goes from 5K to 3K. And all of a sudden, I need 60 deals. And look, I'm not working like 73 billion hours a day. I don't want to hit 60 deals, right? Much rather hit 40. So keep the product pitch the same at the bare minimum. So default pitch, a specific package that's high enough to ensure you keep your average cash collection steady, and then $100 every day. And this would be my inputs in this example right here in order to hit that amount. Like, that's literally it. That's literally it. Okay. So here's where it becomes interesting. If Closer decides that this structure is not feasible, you alter the inputs based on the ideal situation. Okay, for example, if I only want to work 20 days in a month instead of 23, and want to work 8 hours a day instead of 10, I have to create more efficiency. Therefore, my inputs will then be more focused on increasing show rate, increasing close rate, increasing average cash collections. For example, if this was the case, then I would focus on pitching my absolute highest product, maybe. Okay. And maybe here for close rate, I would just do a lot more skill set work. I would add 2 training sessions a day, right? Something like that. Increasing show rate. I would go to a person on my team that has like the highest show rate, and I would like literally like do exactly the same process to go from 50% to maybe 55%, right? I'm just using an example if you wanted to create more efficiency because you want to work less days in a month, right? Something like that. So in that instance, your inputs would change because you're working based on different data points. But this right here is the biggest thing you can do today to just like shoot up your comms, because you don't have to change anything when it comes to your skills. You just literally do that based on the data you have. But see, guys, this is why process is number one, because if there's no consistency in the process, like, this is not going to work. You're just going to get some arbitrary numbers that you can create, but because you haven't used a reliable process, the next month you do it, you're going to get either really good results, really bad results, maybe the same, but you don't really know. And I'd much rather know if I'm going to plan out my month. Okay. Third thing is clarity. If you go here, I said the reason why people don't, like, they have such a big deviation from week to week, it is because they either don't know their data or they don't feel like there's a reason to follow their input. And that means that You don't have clarity on what you're working towards. Okay, so here's what I'll tell you. If I go up here, it says 10K to 30K month framework. I can probably get to 40. I can get to 50, maybe even more than that. Okay. I am in Europe. I work Europe time zones. I'm still collecting a shitload of cash. I haven't worked a single weekend now in like 7 months. I don't want to change that. Guess why? Because I know what I'm working. Like I know why I'm doing what I'm doing. I know my why. I have my certain goals. There might be people that want to do 100K month in comms, and I know people that have done it, and I respect those people so much. But I can't do it, not because like there's a physical limitation of like it's impossible for me to get the level of skill set and organization. It's just that it requires a certain amount of workload and volume and resilience that I just can't have in place for me to get there because I don't really care about getting there. So this is really important. Like you need to know why you're doing what you're doing. I just like every closer that I speak to nowadays, they're like, I want to make 50K month, I want to make 70K month, I want to make 100K month. It's like, why? I don't know, because this guy did it. It's like, so fucking what? So fucking what if that guy did it? Okay, why you're doing what you're doing? Again, personally, I hit a. This is wrong. I hit a crush multiple times. Whereas, like, why am I doing this, and what am I doing it for? The first step is to know what you want out of sales. Sales is a vehicle towards something. So what it is that you want out of sales, not how much you want to make, that ties into the word, but like what do you want out of sales? Or so what's the ideal lifestyle you want to have by being in sales? Okay, and then you kind of attach a number to that picture. Okay, but you want to have a very, very clear picture of what that looks like. The way to make it easier, this is what I do for myself. It just simplifies things a lot more. Have multiple checkpoints. Have a 6 month vision, 3 year vision, and a 10 year vision. Okay, so you have a really, really clear picture of what it is you're working for, not just now, but in the future. Because look, you might smash your 6 month goals and then you're like, oh, what's happening now? I've already got my goals. Like, cool. That's why you have a 3 year vision and a 10 year vision, right? I use what's called the morning formula. This is by someone called Taylor Walsh. He used to run a company called Traffic and Funnels back in the day, one of the OG high ticket consulting companies. One of the best things that I ever did in my life was literally implement this called the morning formula. I literally have the document right here. It is relevant to this video, but it's going to take like a lot more to explain. So if you're still watching this video, um, hopefully someone is besides just like my mom or something. If you're still watching this video, just like comment down below morning formula or just like send me a message on Instagram. Just like ask me, I'll send it to you. Like there's no like opt-in, there's no like email funnel opt-in. Just like I'll just send it to you, right? I'll just send you the template and show you how to do it. But this allows you to have that clarity. This allows you to have a picture of why you're doing what you're doing and really have a vivid idea of what that looks like, right? So then once you do these, you can very easily sustain this stuff, right? You can sustain your inputs. Again, for myself, I don't really want to go beyond 30. I don't really care about going beyond. To be honest, I don't really care about going beyond like 20, 25K a month. Um, so I have my inputs based on that number, right? I know, for example, there's there's a there's a guy that used to work for my company, Seventh Level, who also used to be my manager for like a few weeks when I joined. Before he left, he did 100K in commissions. He did, like that guy was an animal, right? Like I couldn't do what he did, not because he's like so much better skill set wise, right? Like I'm like pound for pound, call for call. Like I think my skill set is pretty decent, right? I don't think I'm the best of all time or something, but for my skill set is pretty decent. But again, it's like that why. It's like when you have that why behind why you want to get to a certain point, then creating a structure to actually get there becomes much more feasible, right? For me to go and create like a 15-hour day for myself and work until like 4 a.m. in the morning, it's just not something that I want to do. Okay. So like you guys really need to have this in place, understand why you're doing what you're doing. It's just gonna make things so much easier, remove so much stress over your shoulders because you know what you're working for and you know that you're doing it for you, not for the leaderboard, not for the overowner, not for the manager, not for the other sales reps. You're doing it for you. Okay. And honorable mention, I put it in here, objection handling, it still matters. If you're someone that's not good at objection handling, in my opinion, you're gonna struggle to become a really good closer. And I know this might be like controversial, but I truly believe if you're not good at objection handling, there's a limitation you're gonna have to how far you can go. The reason is high ticket sales usually is coaching, consulting, BizOp. We're selling air, we're selling non-tangible products. This requires a lot of identity shifting, belief shifting, getting people to make a decision and make an investment in a different way than they've ever done before. So like you need to be really good at objection handling to get them to do that. So if you're someone that's like not super good at objection handling and over the course of the month you're getting hit with like a bunch of things about it, a bunch of partner, all that stuff, you probably need to start working on that a little bit. And you need to see why that is, whether that's a discovery issue or just you're just letting people off the hook at the end. So that's pretty much it. Hopefully this was helpful. I think this went for a while as well, so hopefully someone's still watching this. But yeah, let me know if you guys want this morning formula thing. Hopefully it was useful, and see you all in the next video.